do you before you look at the actual theories I put down? What do you think happened?
So, I didn't think murder.
Yeah.
I keep going back and forth on that because it's a small town.
Yep.
Like, what would you stumble across in Plume, Colorado? Unless it was an old mining town, so I don't know. Whereas, like, there's some environmental thing from some large company that they're covering up. I don't know. He wasn't even investigating that. He was just following some other guy. And
he didn't even find the body.
Yeah.
Hunters did.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's also, now if I'm going to play devil's advocate in my own doubts here, if Tom stumbled upon something and got killed for it, and they stage it like a suicide.
Yeah.
And what makes it off is he wouldn't kill his dog, or assumed it wouldn't kill his dog. If someone's investigating that story and happens to stumble across the same thing, so he wasn't trying to find something that Tom found, but ended up in the same situation.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense, I guess. It's only a year later, so it's still fresh.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would say more likely. What did one of our patron supporters say? It was feral people.
Oh, the feral people, yes.
Maybe it's feral people.
It could be the feral people.
No, I'd say the more likely scenario is unprepared, starting late.
Yeah.
Succumb to the elements. I think that's not as fun as the other ones. And I guess fun's the wrong word to use. But like as far as theories go, it's not the exciting one.
Yeah.
I just think that's the more relevant one. Just completely unprepared, no stuff. Maybe got hypothermia, couldn't hike out and succumb to the elements. And maybe during hypothermia, you can go through an issue where if you have altitude sickness, you're cold, you're not thinking properly. Maybe you wandered off somewhere. It's an old mining town. He could have gone into a cave to try and maybe get shelter.
Yeah.
Succumb to the elements, and that's why they can't find him. He's in some cave or crevasse somewhere, and maybe in the next 50 years, somebody will stumble across it. I don't know. But that's the most likely scenario in my mind.
So without reading through the theories of law enforcement and townspeople, I would agree that I think the most likely scenario is the easiest one to connect the dots on is he went hiking in an alpine environment at altitude late in the day, pretty inexperienced in the location and with hiking, and had no gear with him. And like I said earlier, that, you know, at night it can get down into the 20s, even in June. In August, it's probably a little warmer up there. You're probably not going to have 20s and 30s. It's probably 40s or 50s at that time of the year. But the fact that he was hiking up there late, maybe he made it to the summit and then something happened once it got dark. I've hiked so many different trails where I could never do that at dark.
Oh yeah, like you get lost in daylight.
You get lost, you'll fall. I mean, one of the biggest things I always say is you got to be very sure of your footing the higher up you go, because the trails get, you know, crappier and narrower, and every step you got to know exactly where your feet are going, because, you know, you could slip and you're down 1,000 feet.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think that is the most logical explanation. I'm going to go into some of the theories, and I bet you might change your mind once you hear some of these.
Right,
I don't know if you read through them yet.
I did not, just because I wanted to come at this raw. So lay it on me.
Obviously, law enforcement, as of 2018, still had the case open, so they don't really have an official theory of what happened to him. But they do have, at the time, they had some people in question that they could never find. So the night before he vanished, Keith attended a party where he was talking to a woman named Greta or Gretchen, who was from Denver. And police believe that she may have information on his disappearance, but as of yet, the authorities haven't been able to, they weren't able to find her and determine what truly happened. So we have somebody that he was talking to that knows what he was going to do. And
that's a small town. So like by now, that person who was talking to him should have seen it and been like, oh, I was that person.
Yeah.
Like that's really random. A very small town to be there to talking to that guy about what he was doing.
That was one of the theories too. They said that a town of that small, somebody knows something if there was foul play. If it truly he just fell, they may not know. Mm-hmm. If there was foul play, somebody in that town knows what's going on. So, like I said, the police don't really have an official theory. I think probably if you were to pressure them on it, they would say exposure, lack of preparation and gear caused his death. Family and friends have very different theories. So family, friends, and residents of Silver Plume think neither he nor Tom committed suicide and that they were victims of foul play. First of all, they say the ballistics could never prove that the gun next to Tom was the one that killed him. So they were never able to prove that gun actually was the one that shot him and his dog.
Could they not find the bullet, or they just, for whatever reason, they couldn't link it?
They couldn't link it. So, I mean, we're talking skeletal remains, so I don't know how sophisticated in the 80s they were to be able to check ballistics, but you would think if Tom had committed suicide, you would see a shell casing right nearby, within 5 feet of him.
Yeah, and we'll throw up the images. That's why I like doing the videos. I got images of the gun and everything like that.
Yeah.
We'll put up there so you can see it. But
so that is a very interesting fact, because there would be 2 shell casings there somewhere, especially from the shot that he theoretically took himself. And they weren't able to find, the shell casings, and, weren't able to actually tie the gun to him. And the other strange fact that we already mentioned was they both rented the same building. So,
were they not paying rent?
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
Tony Soprano was their landlord. No, so I mean, if you want to go the paranormal route, is there something going on with that building? Should like the TV show Ghost Hunters go check it out?
Yeah,
I don't even know if it's still there at this point. But I'm not going to go the paranormal route. I think it's just a coincidence that it's a super small town. It was probably the only commercial space available.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would agree with you on that one. It's probably one main street where all the buildings are, and that's the one that happened to be open.
But the foul play scenario is a strong second for me, just because of the fact that the ballistics couldn't match the ballistics on, Tom and his gun, and that Keith, like almost a year to the day Tom also went missing in the same area. That just seems odd to me. Like that, my spidey sense goes up when I hear that.
And here's the deal. I'm with you. I think that would be my second guess if it's not going to be just elemental. But even if they could match the ballistics, it doesn't necessarily matter. Because if it's his gun and they match the ballistics, they could use his. If I were going to do that, I would stage it like a suicide. Mm-hmm. And I would, do the dog head, that guy head, and then leave the gun there, wipe my prints off, put his hand on it.
Yeah.
I'm not good at this. I just watch enough TV to
right.
assume that. I was like, well, that's really descriptive of exactly how it would go down.
do I need to know something here, Joe?
No, but I don't know.
Yeah. So
I don't know.
Final theory that people have mentioned, and this also comes from just the internet, that Keith may have planned his own disappearance because his unsuccessful antique business, his novel was not shaping up. He couldn't finish it. He had told several people that he would hike the mountain even though he was still afraid of heights. And then some interesting footnotes. He told several people shortly before his disappearance that he wanted to visit West Virginia. So that's a very interesting fact that this always one theory, like, did they want to disappear?
Yeah, we don't talk about that enough, but I think there's some real credence to that. Especially, I think it's almost crazy how this team had like a perfect record of rescue except for this one.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they can't miss one. I think it's more abnormal that they haven't ever missed one in this area. But yeah, that does, it could be the whole, he moved to a small town to do something. So he already had something going on where he felt like he needed a big change.
Yeah.
So he moves to this small town, doesn't know what he wants to write about, decides I'm going to write about this guy because I happen to put my store in his store, and he became obsessed with that story. He's got writer's blocks. He's going to try and climb the mountain. Maybe he did. Maybe he's just like, screw this. I'm going to go start a whole new life somewhere else.
Well, and yeah, one interesting theory too around wanting to disappear was that maybe once he found out that one of the search planes had crashed and someone died, that kind of was the final nail. Like, all right, I have to go. I'm going to disappear. I can't face the shame that I went out here, and I made all these people come out here and search for me, and then someone actually died searching for me. Like, there's no way I can walk out and say I was.
Maybe it was more of a PR stunt. Maybe I'm writing this book about missing. I go missing. I'm writing this book. And then maybe he finishes the book and comes out, but now people physically died looking for him. So it's like, okay, whole idea off, go make a new life somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was one theory.
That's a Hollywood theory, but I think it's a good one.
And I think back in the 80s, I think you could probably still pull that off. I don't know if you could do that today.
Yeah, it's
with technology
with the digital stuff,
the digital age. But I think in the 80s, you probably could still pull that off. And, maybe he went to West Virginia. Maybe he went to Mexico. I mean, who knows what he did.
He's still alive, and he's going to be listening to this podcast today.
Yeah. So finally, just to wrap it up, Ted Parker, Keith's friend from there, his theory is that Keith is still on the mountain somewhere and that he simply fell and succumbed to his injuries or exposure. So I put a lot of weight on that theory because Ted is from there. He knew Keith. So I think this is a real interesting case just in the fact that you had two people go missing in similar circumstances, and you have a really experienced search team that had never not found someone and didn't find him. Ballistics don't match. It is strange. But maybe 5'10".
I'm sticking with my original theory.
I think number one theory for me is he was unprepared, hiked it at the wrong time of the day, and fell and died. I think a strong second is maybe some kind of foul play.
I would almost put he
disappeared maybe second.
I would say it's more likely he ran off.
Okay.
As second,
you changed my mind.
just by looking at you, I saw you change your mind. I was like, you're like, okay, yeah, that one.
Yeah, so I think he intended to disappear. Number two, and I think especially after he found out someone died while searching for him.
Yeah, that would be, and if that's the case too, you would hope maybe on his deathbed he'll reveal it or something, and we'll get more information. Other than that, that's where I'd say I'm 90% he died up on the mountain.
I mean, theoretically, maybe he never even hiked the mountain.
Oh, yeah.
No gear.
Yeah, said, hey, I'm going there.
I'm going to hike this mountain.
So, yeah, so it's not like he drove to Colorado and did the mountain. He lived there. So he should know a little bit about, and anyone who lives there.
He did a lot of day hiking. So it's not like he was totally inexperienced in the mountains.
And here's the deal, too. Anyone that lives there would tell you, no, you don't start a mountain hike at 5 o'clock at dinner.
Yeah. And,
so,
maybe, I mean,
you're like pulling my percentage down of that he actually went.
just can't comprehend if you live in the mountains and you've done a little hiking before, that you would go to try to summit a mountain with no gear at this late in the day. Like, I'm starting to change my mind again. Maybe he told everyone he was going to go hike this mountain and do all this stuff and then just never did it and just disappeared.
Yeah, I would like to look. I was looking a little bit. I couldn't see if they found his car there or, I don't know. Yeah.
Or
did Tom start his hike at that time?
Yeah, I don't know that either.
Yeah, so that would be interesting information to find out.
There's not a lot of information on Tom.
If Tom left at 5:30 and he's like, I'm going to go hike at 5:30, he's like, okay, he's retracing his steps. Then I'd go back to, well, that was just a dumb move, and he paid he suffered the consequences of it. But okay, I can see why this has gotten so much attention, because it seems like it should be super clear cut, and it's just there's like little pieces and inklings in there that draw you back.
Even though I did the research on this episode and just reading it out loud, I've already changed what I originally had thought happened to him. So, I got nothing else. Joe, what about you?